Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to my page. Glory Ndongala is my name. Glory. A lot of people have problems pronouncing it, but it's French. In French, it'll be gloire. So in English, I go by Glory. My last name is Dongala. Um, that's that's a very hard one for people to spell too because I'm originally from the Congo, from Africa, and it's got an N before the D, so it's a lot of people like to butcher my name. Not like to, but they can't really help it. You know what I'm saying? But it's Dongala. The N is subtle up here in the nasal. So today I'm going to talk to you about how I self-published a book that became #1 in America in its category on Amazon. The title of my book is Grow Up Church. I'm going to just talk to you about the process of the whole thing to help you to, if you're self-publishing, to become a better self-publisher if you've already self-published, or just to self-publish if it's your first time. So this was my first book. Okay, so this was my first book. It literally just came out 2 months ago. Let me go through the whole process. First of all, if you're writing a book, a lot of times people get caught up in, for me at least, let me explain my story. Maybe it'll help you out. For me, English is my third language. My first language is French. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was taken over by the Belgians, and so we got our independence around like 1960. But we're pretty much forced to speak French growing up. So my first language is French. My second one is Lingala, and my third one is English. So there's a lot of barriers, you can say, as when it came to writing the book. It was really when it came to writing a book, period. I never thought that I could write a book. It was actually a friend of mine which was praying for me and got a prophetic word, a word that he felt was for me and had to do with what I was going to do in the future. This was 5 years ago. He spoke to me and he said, I see you writing a lot of books. And immediately a whole bunch of fear hit me. I was just like, man, I don't know. I'm not good at verbs. I'm not good at commas. I don't even know where to put them. I'm still struggling with the there, you know? And so I was like, how can I possibly write a book? But I knew this man's character was amazing, first and foremost, more than just the words he spoke. He was a man of integrity. And so I trusted what he said because I knew that he heard from God. And so his name is Matt Daniels. He prophesied that over me. Now, fast forward years later, this was actually not my first book. My first book that I started was going to be about my life. If you look closely behind me, there's a check for $23,000. That's going to be another video that I'm going to do. But I was going to do a book titled 23,001 Day. And I actually started doing it. I started writing it. That was the first thing I did. And one of my teachers in college really helped me when it as it relates to writing. She said, when you write, just write. I remember I used to be so afraid of the rules and commas and all this stuff. She said, just write. And so I just started writing. I started writing that first one. And I had a friend of mine, her name is Brittany. She was following me as it relates to, she's a editor, a professional editor. And so she was really trying to help me out to figure out how to do all this. And when I was writing that first book, because it's about my story, that first book, and there's a lot of crazy things that's happened in my life. I'll be unraveling all those things as time goes on. But like she was like, whoa, she messaged me. She's like, you keep trying to add all these things. Like, I'm somebody which wants to bring everybody in. And so I'll be like, oh man, what about my friend Greg? Or what about this time and this time? And so I kept adding to the story. So I got like 75% done with that book. And she just told me, she's like, listen, when you finally get a solid way through the book, then contact me and I'll help you edit it. Well, when I stopped at 75%, There was just a lot of things. Normally, you want to find something that you're passionate about to write about, like something that you want to write about, something that's um, not only that, but maybe you see a problem which there's no solution to. For me, it had to do with the church. I felt like there was a lot of immaturity in the church, and because me and my wife had experienced a lot of things in the church, which was just like crazy. And so it was really in my heart. I was like, man, how can we solve these issues in the church? And so that way people can mature. And I remember just praying, and I felt the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, speak to me about me writing this book. And I was, very scared when I heard that. Again, there's always this fear, but I was like, okay, I'll start. And I just started writing, and it took me a year. In 1 year, I finished like the whole draft of this book. And back then it was just 38 chapters. So in 1 year, I wrote 38 chapters. And so that was the first process. The second one is getting a good editor. So first one is just writing, just write, okay, and find something that you're either passionate about, or find a problem that you may have a solution to. So that's some of the process. My kids over there crying. So some of the process with that. So the next one is an editor. Okay, so I found an editor. Her name is Kalani, and she was phenomenal. Okay, so she really helped me a lot. Like you need to find somebody who, you can't just have any editor, I think, to edit your book. For me, at least, for what I'm writing, I had to get somebody which was like on the same wavelength. It made things easier for me. And so I got an editor which understood the church, I would say. And so we got on the same wavelength. And so she started writing for me, editing for me. And as she's editing, she started pulling all these things out of me. A great editor will pull more out of you. At first I was kind of like, oh, what's going on? I thought you just gave your stuff to the editor and the editor did it. It doesn't work that way at all. Some of you already know that, but I didn't. And so I gave it to her, and she would call me on a regular basis and contact me and Marco Polo me. And I was like, what in the world's going on? Well, the reality is she wanted to save my voice. She wasn't going to change my book and change the voice. She wanted to save my voice. She wanted to make sure that I was in agreement with the different changes that she was making. And then she wanted to make sure that it stayed true to my character, it stayed true to the vision that I had for the book. Okay, so character, vision that I had for the book. So that way it wasn't missing any integrity while I'm writing. And so we go through this process, and she was so phenomenal that she pulled out of me another 3 more chapters. Okay, so 39, 40, 41. Yeah, 3 more chapters she pulled out of me, which I didn't even know were there. But because she was so good at pulling out information and making sure that what I was saying was coherent and what I was saying made sense throughout the whole story, that she pulled that out of me. Another thing that she really helped me, at least just to be really conscientious of, is the cover. When you look at my cover, like a lot of people always tell me, they're like, wow, like they're intrigued by the cover, they're drawn in by it and stuff. I really prayed. I prayed a lot about what to put in the cover, because she said one of the biggest things is when people see the cover, you have about maybe 5 seconds, I think, or something like that. Something very small, a small window to get people's attention. And so if your cover isn't pulling them in, then they're just going to move on to another book. And so I prayed. I contacted one of my youth kids, which does art. Her name is Gabby. She's awesome. And so she did a blueprint for me, kind of kind of shared with her what I was thinking. She did a blueprint of kind of like a tree growing out of the ground. I ended up getting a heart, a real heart, and then I got in contact with this amazing person which did my book cover. So I'm gonna actually have these informations down low. If you look on the bottom of my video there, I'll have the information. I'll have the places where you could actually find all this stuff. But there's this guy which really helped me out. He has a Instagram page. For him, he only charges $150 for well, no, total is like $180 if you do the ebook plus the physical book for the cover. He was incredible. You know, I sent him my vision, what I was wanting to see out of my book, and I put it together and I sent it to him, and he just worked really hard, really diligently. And you need to give enough time. You know, for me, since I had a lot of things that I wanted to put on my cover, that whole process took at least like almost 3 weeks, okay, to get all the way through. So normally if it's like something really easy and fast, it's done quicker. But for me, I had specific things, okay, so that took time. My editing process is about 6 months, but it's because there are other things. She was already working on another book, but I would at least give a good 6 months to really go through, because even at the end of that, there were still things that were missing. You know, there are still things that the proofreading aspect of it, which is really important, that you would find all these other things as well. They're just little things here and there, but it's a process for all this thing to be done. You know, book was done in a year, you know, plus the 6 months of editing, plus the proofreading, which came to that, plus the book cover. You know, I would give a good year and a half or something like that. But normally people don't write books that fast. You know, for me, it was really the grace of God. But I wrote 2 books during that time, and I'll share the other book later. But anyhow, I went through that. Now, I wasn't able to do ads. So Facebook has turned off my ads on Facebook, which means that I can't do ads on Instagram either. And the reason why was there was this situation which happened, and it was on Facebook, not me. But what happened was they lumped together everything, all my advertisement, and then they tried to make me pay for it like a whole month later from when I was like paying for it up front with different payments. Now, when it happened, my bank was kind of like alerted by it. And on my app, it didn't really have like Facebook on there. It just said like a number or something like that. And I was like, I don't know where this came from. Like, literally, I mean, it's a month later. It's all lumped together. And so I was like, I don't know where that came from. And so when they went to go do a refund, well, you know, Facebook was like, you can't do that, da-da-da. And it was my first time ever doing anything like that. They completely shut off my whole ads. I think there's definitely something more at works than just that. But they shut it off. They closed the case. They won't let it work. So I couldn't do ads. I couldn't, you know, put my book out there and say, hey, like, this is what I'm doing. So I did all of this without ads, which is crazy, you know. So there's that whole aspect of it, and I'll share about what I did to kind of get my book out there, since I couldn't do ads. Now, before I do that, you need to get an ISBN number. Okay, so if you're going to be a self-publisher, so what I've learned through this whole process is there's self-publishers, which they're self-publishers, but they still don't have like the whole rights to their book whenever it gets placed like on Amazon. Like Amazon can get you an ISBN number. Okay, what is an ISBN number? Okay, so if you go to Bowker online on Google, you type in Bowker and you put ISBN number, it'll take you to myidentifier.com. I'll make sure I put that link down low. But if you go to the My Identifier, you'll have to log in and you create your own your username, etc., all your login information, and then you'll be able to get an ISBN number. I like to call it an ISBN number the social security number of the book. Okay, so it's the book's imprint, fingerprint. It's the book's identifier. So how the library will be able to tell that this is actually so-and-so's book is through these unique numbers that you have back here. Now, these numbers, there's only one place in all of America which does this, and it's Bowker, okay, Bowker. And so they, have it all. They own it all. And so to get one plus a barcode, it's like, for me, it was like, to get one plus a barcode was like $125, okay? Or you could get 10 plus 5 barcodes for $400 and something, okay? So I went ahead and got the 10, and I'm so glad that I got the 10, okay? Because when I started doing this process, I made mistakes, okay? One of the things is the amount. Once you do your ISBN thing, you cannot change it. Once it's done, okay? So the first one that I did, I made a mistake. I put a different amount for the retail price on there. And so the retail price was going to be lower than the price that I was going to be selling the book online, which it just for me just seemed very unethical to do that. And so what I did then is put the retail price higher on my book, so then I can sell it lower. Okay, I never want to go higher than my retail price, so I can sell the book much lower. Okay, so my book is sold like way lower on Amazon, but my retail price is higher. So that way I'm not passing that. So people would look at it as like, what, I bought this book for what? And it's only what back here? It could create problems. Okay, so you go to Bowker, you get your ISBN number. Okay. You'll fill in all this information. It's really not that difficult. It just takes you step by step to doing it. You fill out the information and all of that, and then you get your ISBN number. You get your barcode. So then whenever they scan this, boom, your information comes up. And so you get all of that. And for me, I sent it to my guy, which was making my book cover, so he can put that on the back in that space right there, okay? So there's a space for the barcode. He'll ask you, where do you want the barcode? I wanted it right there, and so he left the space. I got the barcode, and he placed it in there for me. Now, I also had other friends which work on computers and all of that stuff, because I had to redo the barcode. I contacted them. They placed that in there for me, as well as other things that I have hidden. Like in my cover, I have a bunch of things hidden. You can't really tell until you get the book and you look at it, but there's a lot of things that I have. There's things, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's things hidden on this cover, and it's all part of my teaching whenever I'm teaching this book. Anyhow, so that process is done. Then you got to go to KDP, okay, Kindle Publishing site. So you go to KDP and you open it up. You create a KDP account. They'll go through all this information. They'll ask you about your bank. They'll ask you about the tax information and all of that. You fill out all that information. And then when your book is done, I did mine first on Google Docs, so that way I have other people which could connect with my book and go through it, etc. So when my book was done, I moved it to Word document. And I think it's way easier to take it from Word than move it to online. Okay, now the ebook is different when it relates to putting it online. So one of them, you have to do a PDF file. Okay, so you have to change your writing into PDF, and then you can upload it. And I think that's the regular, the printed. Don't quote me on that, but and the other one is that you can do it on Docs or other forms. It'll be there. It'll show you the little steps like on there, step by step. You can put in your ISBN number on there as well. You can either get Amazon's or put in your own. See, I had my own. So I own my own rights. I own the right to this book. I own the rights to every single thing on this. Okay, so I didn't get Amazon's ISBN number. I got my own through brokers and all of that. And so you put in your ISBN number. You put in your information. Now it's important for the page. Okay, so I got white on black. Don't do any other one. If you do white on black, then it's able to be used in different stores and all these places. I learned the hard way. So I did one. I went through and I did it like on glossy pages instead of white on black, like this. And so when I did on the glossy pages, what ended up happening was they were like, oh, we can't distribute this because they won't take the glossy pages. So I was like, oh man, I didn't know. And I tried to redo it. I tried to call them after it was all done and published. They will not redo it. Okay, once it's in there, it's in there. Okay, so at least for that part, you can always re-upload like the book, the information in the book. But once you got the cover and all of that stuff, you can fix the cover. But once you get the papers inside, the pages inside, once it's set to a certain place, it's set. Okay, so make sure you get it on what you want it to be on. So for me, I had to go back, I had to redo it. It was just a hassle. Okay, and then I put it on the white and black, and now it could even get into schools. So if schools wanted to use my book for teaching purposes, they can use it because of the way that it's done. Now while you're writing, the hard thing for me was your cover has to fit your book. So when you're doing the cover part, it was very difficult for me. It took a lot of time to do because I didn't really understand the process of it. So I ended up doing a book 8.5 by 11, okay? So 8.5 by 11, look at it. And it actually turned out really good. I was hoping to do something like smaller. I'm glad it came out this way because people really like it. It's more of a textbook feel. You could actually highlight in there, write. There's just a lot of space in there to write. I have 3 tests in the back of this book, which is really helpful. So all of that process is actually really good. Okay, for me. Now, for other people which want to make this book smaller, on Word document, you have to go to where where you do the words, the printing, area, and there's a whole bunch of videos on it, which is way better than what I can say on it. But what I realize is if I lowered it, like if I did like 6.5 by something else, which would make the size of the book smaller up here, and smaller here, but more pages. So my book is 41 chapters, and so if I did it that way, it would be a very thick book, thick looking book. And it's already thick enough as it is right now. It's like a Chinese phone book. Anyways, so I'm glad that it went like this. But that's a good little process to look at as well, because it's the size that you want in your book. The margins, because if you want to do bleed, look at the margins, how I brought it close, It has to be 1.5 by I can't remember what the other one is, but you can look up other videos which have to do with margins. But I brought it in. It's about 2 fingers, because if I want it, which I did the bleed. Bleed is a lot better because of the way that it's done, the way that the printing comes when it's doing that. Is really good. But if you have your words too close to the side, it will be cut off when you do bleed. Okay, so you got to make sure that it's brought in at least 1.5 here on the side, on that side. Okay, and likewise in the inside, I just think 1. Okay, outside 1.5, inside I think 1. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so I got all of that. Another thing that I did to help me, okay, is that since I couldn't do ads. If I did ads, I think it would have even done a lot better than what it did, but I couldn't. And so I just relied on word of mouth. What I did is I did a Facebook Live, I did a Facebook Live where I was like, it's a book release party, but on Facebook Live. Okay, so I did a book release party on Facebook Live. Invited all my friends. They don't have to come over to my house or anything like that. They can be wherever they are. It's probably pretty crazy to hear my kids crying in the back there. Oh, the life of a parent. So anyways, they can be wherever they are. And so I did Facebook Live in that way. And so I invited people on Facebook Live and say, hey, check out my book. It's going to come out on this day, etc., etc. So they came in, and I got to explain to them the process and what I went through, and really invited them in, really had them asking questions. And before even that date came, I started doing Facebook Lives here and there, just to get people involved, just to get people, hey, like, to keep people aware, like, hey, here's what's coming. And I would ask, I think there's also a difference between, like, what I've realized, the difference between your videos or whatever it is that you're making for it to be noticed is really your friends believing in you. If your friends believe in you and they're like, hey, like, I believe in the calling in your life, or whatever it is, I believe in what you're doing, they'll be able to share your videos and they'll come alongside of you. And when they share it, then, you know, there's a chance where that video, somebody can get it and they can look at it and then they can share it. And I think that's really the difference. Now, sometimes your friends get too familiar with you. They get familiar with what you're doing. They get familiar with who you are. And you need to branch out to other people, which may see something that they've just realized is just normal, when it's not normal and it's extraordinary. You know, there's something about you that may be extraordinary, and maybe the people around you just become too familiar with the extraordinary. Just a thought. And so anyways, I try to branch out to share the videos with other people, which then I asked them to share it, because again, I couldn't do ads. So I asked people to share my videos, so that way it would be able to help me out. And when they did, we got together, and I also would just promote it like on Instagram. Again, I couldn't do ads because Instagram's tied up to Facebook. So I would do little pictures of my book and blur out, like I use an app just to blur out different things and just leave little tiny things. So just getting people excited about it, you know, and keeping that momentum going and building the momentum until when it came out on that day, you know, people were actually excited about the book. They went out and they went to go buy the ebook. My physical book, actually my printed copy, wasn't even out for another like 2 weeks or something. So a lot of people just went through and they got the ebook. And even with all of these things, which were hindrances, all of these things which were really difficult, somehow I remember the day was like, even within a week, I think, after it came out and stuff like that, all of a sudden, a friend of mine, which I was talking to about the book, I was like, hey, you can find this book. He goes online and he looks, he's like, dude, your book is #1. It's a #1 new release in its category. I was like, what? In America? So I was like, what in the world? My book is #1 in this. I couldn't believe it. I was like, me? You know, I self-published, you know, me, this English is my third language and all this. Like, I just was shocked. I was like, that is incredible. I never thought that would happen, you know, but it did. And really, for me, I believe in God. I believe in the purpose and in the calling and all that he has, you know, and he's the one, I believe, that opened up the door. But again, there's a verse in the Bible where it says faith without works is dead. So I also put in my due diligence as it relates to looking at videos and looking at steps and how people did things. And then I started applying that into my own video. Okay, into my own video, sorry. I started applying that into my own book, and it really helped, you know. But those were all the steps that I took to publish a #1 new release book. It's only been out for 2 months. There's other projects which are connected to this book, which I'm looking to do, but I'm moving forward. I'm not going to just stop and stay there, you know. I'm going to keep going, and I'm very thankful that God did this. I'm thankful for friends of mine which believed in me and they were able to invest in this process. But I hope all the information that I gave you was good, and it was good. What's the English way of saying it? I hope the information that I gave you was informative. There we go. I hope the information that I gave you was informative. Perfect. Well, God bless you. I have plenty of more videos. If you want to know more about this disappearing check here, $23,000, please share this video. I think once I you share the video, comment below, and just let me know, like, hey, I do want to know. I want to know how you won $23,000 in one day. Okay? So thank you so much. The link to all this stuff is underneath. The link to my book is also underneath. If you would like to get it, check it out. And I promise it. I promise. I don't really make promises like that. I don't. Sometimes I say things because I watched it in a movie. You know, like if you're an immigrant, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, you watch something, you're like, oh man, that's a good phrase, and you just rephrase it, like you restate it over and over again. Goodness sake, I have some funny stories of different things that I've said, but that's for next time. All right, y'all have a good one. Thank you for taking the time. Hopefully this helped. If it did, why don't you share this with some of your friends? Share this video with your friends. It would be really awesome. Take care. My son's crying like crazy to hear. I don't want to.